guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, kindly hit the subscribe button. Today we are going to be talking about toxicity. Are you a toxic person? Are your friendships toxic friendships? Sometimes it's easy to call others, to call friends, to call acquaintances and family toxic. But the big question here is, are you sure you're not the toxic one? A toxic person is someone who makes others feel bad through either words or actions. His or her presence totally brings sadness. Here are some 20 points to look out for to tell if you are a toxic person or not. The first characteristic of a toxic person is that their relationships hardly last, be it romantic or platonic. Are you that kind of person who hardly keeps relationships? Do people come into your life and leave so soon, so frequently, and so unannounced? Then you just have to check, because you may be a toxic person. The second characteristic of a toxic person is people always feel a bad vibe after spending time with you. If you are a toxic person, you realize that after spending time with friends, after spending time with family, instead of them feeling lighter and happier, they always leave you feeling sad and even worse than they came. So if you notice that there's always this bad vibe around you whenever you meet with people, then you may just be toxic. The third characteristic of a toxic person is that people will hardly tell you about their successes. Are you that kind of person whom family or friends hardly tell their successes to? Then check yourself properly. You may just be toxic. Maybe they don't tell you about their successes because you do not appreciate them, you do not congratulate them, you do not be happy for them whenever they tell you. Are you that person who is always not invited to events? Are you that person who most good news is always hidden from? Then you may just be a toxic person. The fourth characteristic of a toxic person is toxic people have a whole lot of drama surrounded around them. Are you that person whose life is filled with drama, fighting here and there, quarrels here and there, beefs here and there, everywhere on social media? You're beefing, you're quarreling, you're insulting, you're bashing. Are you that kind of person? Each time you call your friends is to narrate how people insulted you. Each time you call your friends is to narrate problems. Each time you call your friends is to narrate fights and beefs you have with people. You may just be a toxic person. The fifth characteristic of a toxic person is you tend to dominate all conversations. Whenever you're in discussions or conversations with your friends, your family, your acquaintances, you do not want to listen to them. You do not give a listening ear. You want to be the only person to be heard from. You don't give a listening ear. You want to dominate all conversation. That is a serious trait of a toxic person. The sixth characteristic of a toxic person is you only become nice and kind only when it benefits you. Are you this kind of a person? Then you have to set checks, because you may just be a toxic person. The seventh sign that you may be a toxic person is if friends or family members have called you jealous or competitive. Competition is good per se. Competition is good because it encourages hard work. But that kind of fierce competition, copycatting, jealousy, are you that kind of a person? If your friends have told you outrightly that you are jealous, or if your friends have told you outrightly that you are a copycat, or you compete so much, then you may just be a toxic person. The eighth characteristic of a toxic person is people always ask for more space. Like in your relationships, your friends tell you, you know what, please, I need some time for myself. Maybe your boyfriends or your friends will always tell you they need time for yourself. If this keeps on repeating itself, know that your friendship is toxic, your presence is toxic. The ninth characteristic of a toxic person is you think you are better than others. You always think you know more than others. You always think you are better in every aspect more than others. Hence, you don't appreciate the efforts of others. You don't appreciate the hard work. You don't appreciate the achievements of others. You think you are better than every other person. That's a serious toxic trait. The 10th characteristic of a toxic person is that you manipulate others so much just to get your way. You are manipulative emotionally and physically. You use all sorts of tricks to manipulate others in your favor, to manipulate others just to get your way. Do you have this trait in you? Then you may just be a toxic person. The 11th characteristic is you point fingers a lot. You accuse people a lot. You're always on the blaming side. You're always on the blaming side. You always put put up this pity party. You accuse people a lot and point fingers. Everything to you is wrong. Everything other people did to you is wrong. Even when you are wrong, you tend to look for means to paint the other people black or to shift the blame to the other people. Do you have this characteristic? Then it's a sign of toxicity. The 12th characteristic of a toxic person is a person who hardly accepts fault or apologizes. Are you that kind of person who hardly apologizes even when you're wrong? Saying I'm sorry is like a taboo to you, then you are a toxic person. The 13th characteristic of a toxic person is you prefer vengeance other than peace. Are you a very vengeful person? Are you the vengeful type? No matter the situation, you prefer vengeance all the time over peace, then you may just be toxic. The 14th characteristic of a toxic person is you always feel like you are the victim. You always feel like you are the one who has been hurt. You always feel like you are the one who deserves all the care and pampering and everything. You always feel like you are the victim in everything. That's a serious toxic trait. The 15th characteristic of a toxic person is you are excessively needy. Each time you pick your phone to call your friend, it's either to beg for, yes, it's acceptable. With friendships, with family, it's always good to ask for help, especially if you need it. But some people tend to exaggerate this. Are you that kind of a person who feels like everything should be always given to you? Who feels like you are the one to always be at the receiving end? Who is always needy all the time? Either you need physical assistance or emotional support, or if you are always needy all the time without checking on the other person, it means you are a toxic person. The 16th characteristic of a toxic person is you are self-centered. You think of no other person but yourself. No other person matters except you. That's seriously toxic. The 17th characteristic of a toxic person is you badmouth people a lot behind their backs and come in front of them and paint yourself to be a saint. Like, how can you badmouth someone so much behind their backs, yet when you are with them or when you are in front of them, you paint yourself to be an angel. You make them know you are for them. You make them know you love them and you cherish and appreciate them. But the moment they turn their backs, no, you can even stab them on the back. The 18th characteristic of a toxic person is you are highly pessimistic. Your ideas are always pessimistic. You are always on the negative. You are always pessimistic. No, it's not going to succeed. You may not succeed. He may not marry you. This relationship may not work. No, you may not pass this exam. Why don't you think your friend may pass that exam? Why don't you think that guy may just marry her? Why don't you think that relationship may end well? Why don't you think things may turn out well? They are always on the pessimistic side. Always discouraging. Then no, you are a toxic person. The 19th characteristic of a toxic person is you belittle others. Are you fond of belittling others? Other people's efforts, other people's achievements, are you fond of belittling others, making a mockery of them? Then you are just a toxic person. And on the 20th point, you are highly controlling. You want to control everybody around you. You want everybody, you want to be the mama G. You want everybody to listen to you. You want to be controlling. You want to be dominating. If you have these characteristics in you, then you may just be toxic. We all have one or two toxic traits in us. That's just the truth. There's no perfect person on earth. There's no perfect being on earth. We all have one or two toxic traits. The difference is some people are exaggeratedly toxic while others are on a low, like they are on a mild tone. So no matter where you belong, if you are highly toxic, if you realize you're a highly toxic person, or maybe you are just mildly toxic, it's not too late for you to change. What can you do now? Take the responsibility and accept your faults. Take responsibility and start treating people better from now, from today. It's never too late. Taking responsibility and accepting our faults is one of the most powerful attributes we can possess in life. Not everyone is going to be able to do that. Because the reality is that somehow you are ultimately responsible for whatever happens in your life. You are responsible for your happiness, successes, and failures. You are responsible for the quality of your relationships with other people. So if you don't work on it, no one is going to do that for you. Now, having realized your faults and seeing how toxic you have been towards others, it's time to take that bold step. Here are some tips which you could use to improve in your relationships with your friends and family. First, cultivate the habit of having listening ears. Secondly, think before acting. No matter how angry you are, always think of the repercussions of what you're going to do before doing it. Thirdly, forget about your ego or shrink your ego drastically. It's going to help you so much in life. Fourthly, always reach out to your friends and family. Always reach out to your loved ones. Do not wait for them to reach out to you all the time. Sometimes you should take the bold step. Fifthly, always assume positive intent. The intention of others to you shouldn't be always negative. Always think that they have positive intentions, except they prove you wrong. Next, always build and support others. Clap for others when they are winning. Support others in any way you can. Try to build up people instead of bringing them down all the time. Next, do as much as possible to avoid negative conversation and be kind to others. Show kindness to others always. Now, I've come to the end of this video. I hope it helped you in one way or another. Thanks so much for watching, and see you all in my next video.